Hey, welcome into Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're brought to you by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbus. Strides with the new studio. It's definitely different, oh Wade.
Yeah. We are always excited to come in here, always excited to be on a Top 5 Tuesday. And yeah, the new dig's coming together quite nicely and, getting folks ready for the big Tuesday edition of the program here.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by the blue halos.
Hopefully, I'm interpreting that as maybe a sign of good luck for the Blue Raiders, who certainly could use some. Maybe just, light a beacon. The Kings like the beam. Maybe this is us, signaling perhaps a victory for MTSU later this week.
I will take that, as we will discuss with the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters, last week's tough trip south and this coming week's trip west for the Blue Raider football team, among other things. Again, we will have Chip at the top of hour number 2. In our next segment, we will be joined by Blake Lovell of Southeastern 16 because, again, basketball season is right around the corner, and the Southeastern Conference has a full slate on opening night Monday. So we will check in with him to get his thoughts on the new 16-team league, who's hot, who's not, that kind of thing. Looking forward to it. But, man, 16 teams for basketball. I mean, I remember when it was a 10-team league. It's almost doubled.
Yeah, nearly doubled. Big league, a lot of good teams, as we'll talk with Blake. And, preseason poll coming out, cover your ears, Tennessee, but Alabama's, projected to be that top team. So it'll be fun to catch up with Blake, kind of see how things kind of roll along in this new look SEC. We got a dose of it, obviously, in the fall, predominantly with football, of course, but now we'll roll it onto the hardwood.
Absolutely. We will also talk a little NBA here real quick, actually, as well as some NFL, some World Series, some hockey, a little hockey to talk about. And it is Top 5 Tuesday. In our final segment of the show, of course, it being October 29th, we are right around the corner from Halloween. Wade and I will give you our top 5 trick-or-treat candies. Stay tuned for that. See how ours compare with yours. So
now I'm curious, real quick, are these to eat and receive, or are these to give out? Because your mileage may vary.
Your mileage may vary. I was thinking our favorite to receive.
Okay, I like that. That's kind of what I was thinking too. But then I was like, well, I don't know.
No.
Okay, good.
But here's the thing, though. I don't know that I would necessarily give anything that I wouldn't want to get back, just because, again, your mileage may vary in terms of what kind of trick-or-treat volumes or trick-or-treater volume you get, and what you don't give out, you got to do something with.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking. You get one of these big variety bags, and I'm not saying I've done this, but you may pick a couple of your favorites out before you dump everything else in the bucket. To start handing out to the kids. So
I have done that.
When they get those, when you're handing out the candies without the labels, the Laffy Taffies or whatever without the labels. I mean, that's like, all right, where's the real candy? Because I know you kept it for yourself.
Right.
So.
Exactly.
Prone to that over the years.
That will happen. That has happened for sure. So yeah, Top 5 Tuesday at the end of the show. Stick around for that. Fun show, a lot to get to. I guess we can go ahead and get to it with the short slate of yesterday's results and the shorter slate of today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
To the rundown we go, and I'll kick us off with yesterday's results. A couple of bonus scores, though, since we at least mentioned them yesterday on the show. We did talk about high school football getting played on Monday night, and the favorites, as it were, won those games pretty handily. Unicoi County. Remember we said that game was 0-0 at halftime? 49-0 Unicoi defeats Hancock County.
Oh, my goodness.
So if that was accurate and they did resume straight at halftime, it was a tough half of football for Hancock. So Unicoi County goes to 8-1 again, 49-0 over Hancock last night. Alcoa, similar script, a lot to a little, 56-8. Union County falls to 1-8. Alcoa improves to 7-1. And again, as you pointed out yesterday, both of those teams played last Friday, played last night, at least a game and a half, and then we'll play again this Friday. So buckle up if you're a fan of either of those teams. It's going to be a wild week,
no doubt,
as we get kicked off. That was high school version of Monday Night Football. NFL version of Monday Night Football. In a weird and wild game, the Steelers do defeat the Giants 26-18 in that one. More on that to come. Also, another wild and weird game last night, the Bulls tied their franchise record for three-pointers and defeat the Grizzlies, coming from behind to win that one 126-123. On the ice last night, Preds played well at times but could not pull it off, falling to the Lightning 3-2. The game, again, we talked about the emotional impact of that one.
That one was in overtime.
In overtime, so you at least get a little point. You get a little
point.
You don't get tricked. You get a little bit of a treat there for the Preds. So that's kind of the beauty of at least forcing that OT. You get a little something to go away. But it was all tricks for the Yankees last night, who fell last evening in New York. 4-2, the Dodgers defeat them. The Dodgers win that game by 2 runs and now hold a commanding 3-0 lead in the World Series.
And we'll get to it in a second. Let's start with women's college basketball today. Oakwood out of Alabama makes the visit to Pulaski, taking on the Lady Firehawks of UT Southern. That's a 5:30 tip. That'll be followed by the men's half of a doubleheader, Oakwood at UT Southern, starting at approximately 7:30. And in game 4 of the World Series, you can see it on Fox First Pitch at 7:08 Central Time, as the Dodgers try to close this thing out at Yankee Stadium. And the question within the question maybe is, can the Yankees keep Freddie Freeman in the ballpark?
They've not been able to do it very well thus far.
Yeah.
He has he kind of won the MVP on opening night, but then he certainly has solidified it. And unless something wild happens, it'll be his MVP to take home. And yeah, the Dodgers, they are an underdog tonight. They are going with the bullpen game, so who knows what can happen. But this is the last hurrah, perhaps, for the Yankees if they don't take care of business.
Well, I will say, and we'll talk more about this later, but if you could ever afford a bullpen game, it would be
what a great
nothing lead.
What a great spot, right?
Yeah. So they got all the opportunities in the world to get their pitching right. And worst case scenario, they just go back home.
Yeah, I mean,
game 6.
Yeah, things could be a lot worse in that regard. Props to the Dodgers for getting it done early. Again, the Yankees, a lot of mistakes, and we'll dive into it a little more in depth later. But 4-2 was your final last night. Woof. Be a subdued atmosphere perhaps tonight.
Woof indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill here in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m., as well as their hand-cut meats. And everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. Wade, I know you keep up pretty intensely with the Memphis Grizzlies of the National Basketball Association. How familiar were you with Jay Huff before his first 3 games?
Not very familiar with his game in terms of professional acumen, that is for sure. Remembered him at Virginia when they obviously cut down the nets, but this is a phenomenon. And we just talked about the Grizz and kind of picking up some guys. They've done a fantastic job the last year and a half of making guys that doesn't look like they should fit on any sort of NBA roster. Not only do they fit with Memphis randomly, but they kind of thrive. And we saw it with Scottie Pippen, his contract getting converted. We saw it with Yuki getting signed in this preseason. G.G. Jackson was kind of a throwaway pick, perhaps, that they've kind of found gold with. So Huff kind of getting added to this mix, and I don't know yet. You would have to be a real diehard to have anticipated what we've seen so far, because he is I mean, considering Morant has missed a game or two here, Jackson's missed a game or two here, Bain maybe your most reliable player thus far, but other than that, it's been Huff. So, if there's a quote-unquote MVP thus far through the first couple of games, it's been this guy.
The 7'1", 240-pound Jay Huff, again, played his collegiate ball at Virginia, was undrafted in the 2021 NBA draft. Coming into this season, had come off the bench 34 NBA games for counting this season, I guess, with the Grizzlies, Nuggets, Wizards, and Lakers. Again, was a member of UVA's 2019 NCAA title team. Been primarily in the G League, Grand Rapids, Capital City, and the South Bay Lakers. There you go. But he was the G League Defensive Player of the Year, All NBA G League First Team Selection, and All NBA G League Defense during his stay with Capital City. Well, through his first 3 games with Memphis, off the bench, 13 points, 3.3 boards, 1.7 blocks, shooting 64% from the floor, shooting 57% from three-point range. So kind of a stretch 4 at 7'1", I guess. But the Grizzlies have seen enough out of him that they have converted his 2-way deal to a multi-year contract.
I mean, he's kind of earned it. And, I mentioned that they had so many injuries and weird situations last year, and I guess technically even the year before. They had to field like something crazy, like 40 different lineup combinations last year. And so they've had to tinker with some guys, and they've struck gold, as I mentioned, on a couple of them, and they've rewarded some of those guys as well, especially Pippen, like we mentioned a moment ago. Huff kind of next in that mold. I mean, he had a big game last night too. Hits a couple threes, including one in the fourth quarter when Memphis was really kind of needing some points. So without knowing, the real minutia of their books and kind of where they sit in terms of free agency, this is good job by him, good job by the team. He's already kind of become a crowd favorite in a city that kind of really embraces guys out of the blue, and he's kind of fitting that mold already and played well thus far.
I think they embraced that, that grind, that grit and grind. Those unsung and undersung guys, and Jay Huff certainly kind of fits that mold in the grindhouse for the Grizzlies, coming off the bench. And like you said, they converted Scottie Pippen Jr.'s contract at the start of the season. Kudos to the Memphis front office for being willing to kind of say, hey, we don't know everything. If somebody comes in here and just knocks our socks off, we don't mind, giving them, a little love for that and showing them, like you said, kind of rewarding them for that good play. And obviously they expect him to continue it.
Yeah.
And I guess with Triple J continuing to be out, he's going to have the opportunity to continue it.
Absolutely. Just getting ready to say that. Jackson did play last night. We'll discuss him maybe more later. Should have played more last night. Jenkins kind of still fiddling with the minutes for some reason. But not only him, but also Edey, who has shown some flashes of what he could become, but kind of has gotten off to a little bit of a slow start. So Huff, especially being able to stretch, has been nice. But then also he kind of provides a little extra depth in terms of your front court there. So it's been fun to watch it through the first couple of games. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, is this a guy that you're going to be really banking on and really, counting on deep in the season or maybe even to the postseason? I don't know necessarily just yet, but at least for now, what he's able to do is give some of those guys either nights off or rest when they need it, or if Edey gets in foul trouble. And that is key because this is a loaded Western Conference. And they lose last night, so they're sitting there at 2-2. So you can't afford to necessarily throw away games, and having him is a big part of that.
Speaking of the Grizzlies, former Memphis Grizzly, among other teams, Rudy Gay, has announced his retirement after 17 seasons in the NBA with the Rockets. Well, I don't know that he ever actually played with the Rockets. He was drafted by the Rockets in the 2006 draft. and traded to Memphis almost immediately. Grizzlies, Kings, Raptors, Spurs, Jazz, where he spent the most of his time again over those 17 seasons, but he has not played since he was with the Jazz in 2022-23. So did not play at all last year. Signed with Golden State last summer, way before the season started. So he has announced his retirement. I'm not sure exactly when he retired, but he announced his retirement here in the last couple of days. He wrote a piece for the Players Tribune, very popular website. I needed to humble myself and be like, look, this is over. But actually coming to grips with it being over, that's a process, one I'm honestly still dealing with and struggle with at times. I'll still be watching games and see some of these guys missing a pass and fumbling the ball out of bounds, and I absolutely am that dude yelling at the TV like, I'm better than that clown. Are you kidding me? It's not pretty. But Rudy Gay is 38 years old.
Yeah, long in the tooth, which makes me feel really old too, because I mean, this was a guy that had so much promise, had kind of so much hype coming into the league, and man, he had some wild and epic Grizzlies memories. I've referenced it on this show before, but I was there the night he hits the buzzer beater over LeBron, who had just signed with the Heat. The Heatles were in town that night at the Grindhouse, and Rudy Gay just sticks the dagger. He's got the famous clip against the Raptors. Oh, no, not that guy. And then Rudy just absolutely buries the game winner. A lot of good memories. He was not there, and definitely not a key focal point as much during some of those real kind of forward years as they get rid of him at the end of 2013. And then, you know, he's still kind of Memphis, like we said, Memphis is a unique city, and as bad mouth as, you know, maybe in as bad of a sour taste that left kind of some of those latter years or wasted potential, I guess, if you will, some folks maybe felt. I think everybody still really likes him down in that city, and so I think he's going to be celebrated. And went on to have, you know, like you said, a very long career, coming in 2006 and quote-unquote officially retiring earlier today.
From 2006 to the 2021 season, Gay averaged 10 or more points every year. 3 other guys did that. Carmelo, Chris Paul, and LBJ. That's not bad company.
Yeah, I mean, he was, and that's maybe, I guess, if you want to look at his career, the part that could kind of frustrate you or anything of that nature, because there was so much promise. I mean, this guy is a genetic freak, and he had potentially all the tools. And he lived up to the hype, but only to a certain extent. Never made an all-star team, you know, was never on all-NBA team or anything of that nature. But, man, he could deliver some explosive highlights. He hit some big shots during his tenure, especially in Memphis, and ended up, I think once he reached that point later in his career, especially with the Spurs, he kind of just embraced that old dog role and like, hey, I can still go out and do a little something.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of cool to see as he entered the twilight of his career. So a little bit of unfulfilled promise, but, man, he really was explosive and delivered a lot of great memories for Memphis.
Over his career, he averaged 15.8 points, 5.6 boards.
I mean, yeah.
That ain't bad.
I mean, yeah, you would – that's the maddening thing was just how explosive he was. You're like, why can't he do this more often? Or why is this not more consistent? But, man, yeah, he could go, and I'll be curious to see what his next move is. You know, he could probably get into a number of different realms now that he has at least officially declared his retirement.
I'm 38 years old. There's nowhere to even mid-career for most people's professional lives. So the way I see it, I've got a lot of work ahead of me. In the meantime, I'm just feeling extremely grateful for all the love, wisdom, and friendship that I've experienced in the game of basketball. It's a great way to look at it. Epic stuff. I was just thinking I could see him for sure going into to television if he wants to pursue that.
He did have the famous quote I mentioned. You know, he hits the winner over LeBron, and this one lives in Memphis lore when he said, "I didn't care if James Naismith was guarding me," but then he immediately stops himself and he said, "Well, that'd be weird because he's dead." So I mean, Rudy Gay continuously delivered on and off the court. He was kind of the explosive guy and key role in some of those formative years, the first few years of the grit and grind era, and wishing him all the best.
Absolutely. Let's take a break from the Lee Company Studios here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we will be joined by Blake Lovell of Southeastern 16. Stay tuned after the break.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
He shoots, and he scores!
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company Studios here in Muletown, and we are pleased to be joined by Blake Lovell of Southeastern 16 as we get ready for basketball season. Southeastern Conference style, 16 teams. And I know they're not asking us, and I know they're not going to do anything about it, but 16 teams feels like a lot, Blake.
Quite a few now, right? With Texas and Oklahoma joining the mix, and as we know, the SEC will always take their share of getting more teams in the NCAA tournament, which I think they will this year. But yeah, it's certainly very interesting to look at a 16-team conference now this year, and how that kind of affects the SEC scheduling, not just, of course, this season, but now moving forward. Do they keep expanding those conference games and that kind of stuff to get them, basically on par with everybody else in the power conferences right now? So yeah, it's a lot more interesting adding a couple teams to the mix for a variety of reasons.
It's a shock to the system because, again, as I was saying to Wade before the break, I remember the 10-team conference, the 18-team schedule, 18-game schedule where everybody played home and home. And, I mean, you got to be a rocket scientist to put together the conference schedule now, I guess, for one thing. But it's for an old guy who remembers that, this is really a shock to the system.
Yeah, it's much different. I mean, we talked to Garth Glissman. He's the associate commissioner of SEC basketball, and he mentioned, all the different steps they had to take to create this schedule this year. I mean, it's not just as simple as picking this team and putting them here. It's trying to get help from AI. It's trying to figure out how you put the best games, kind of at the best moments, like for this year, right? It's like you have Texas and Texas A&M playing in College Station on the opening weekend of SEC play. You've got Kentucky and Arkansas playing the week between NFL conference championship games and the Super Bowl, and how you have to fit in all of those made-for-TV type games in addition to figuring out, okay, what are the rotating partners for Texas and Oklahoma, and just keep going down the list, right? It's impossible, I think, to build a schedule that's going to be perfect for everybody, and I don't think it ever will be again, just based on having this many teams.
13 of the 16 teams, if I'm counting correctly, play on Monday night to open the season. I can't really tell at a glance who's not playing, but it looks like Texas, Ohio State is kind of a headliner there. A&M and UCF are playing, Missouri and Memphis are playing, but it just kind of hits you like a sledgehammer once it comes here on Monday, I guess.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I think everyone except for Arkansas, LSU, and maybe Auburn, I think is the other team that doesn't play on Monday. Everyone else plays. And, I think the one thing, and you guys have seen this before, I wish there were more important games that were played on night one to make it feel like a bigger sort of deal. But it's just basketball, right? You play 30-something games in a season. You don't have to put all the biggest games on opening night or even opening week. So you're going to get a lot of these games with SEC teams, winning by 20+, 30+ points. And that's okay because I think in this era, transfer portal, and you just got so many new pieces. You want to kind of see how they acclimate to each other. You're trying out different rotations, just as we've seen in these exhibition games. So I don't have as much of a problem with it because I know why coaches do it. But like you said, I think a Texas at an Ohio State, that's interesting. Texas is a team that I may be higher on than most people. I think they got a lot of good pieces on that roster. And, you also have some of these mid-major teams that could sneak up on some of these SEC teams on opening night. Missouri at Memphis, I think, is a really good game. Missouri trying to come back from that over season in league play. So, yeah, it's a decent slate. But I think, again, usually we just learn a lot more about who are going to be the players that are going to stand out. I think you get a lot more feel for that on night one versus, again, whether you just had everybody playing all the top tier teams right off the bat.
Yeah, and kind of with that being said, Blake, I am curious. We obviously got no shortage of storylines in terms of coaches and players maybe coming, players maybe going. But I'm curious, what's got your attention, or what are you most excited to see, whether that's in this opening night or opening week, or maybe even in the first month? What team or two or players or two are you excited about checking out?
Yeah, I think, when you look at, obviously, I think all the attention this year is going to be on Kentucky and Arkansas just because of the unique circumstances surrounding that. Having Cal to go to Arkansas, Mark Pope comes to Kentucky, two teams that and programs that we know, even though they changed coaches, their expectations have not changed at all. Like, they both expect to go to the second weekend of the tournament and beyond the season. Like, there's no waiting around. Like, that's just the way it works at both of those schools. And so I think I'm really interested to see what Kentucky looks like. How is it different than the Cal era? And I think, on the flip side of that, I think Cal could be rejuvenated going to Arkansas. I think he might have I think he may have the second best, most talented roster in the SEC this year. Whether it plays out with him finishing second behind Alabama, maybe not. But I think you can't ignore the talent. But we've always said that with him, right? And so I think those two teams are certainly going to be the most talked about. And then again, you do kind of have to go back to Alabama because in my opinion, it's the league's best chance at a national champion is going to be the Crimson Tide. I mean, they bring back so many players from that team last year. They add a bunch of new guys that are going to make them, I think, even better than they were last year. And so you're coming off a Final Four run. If they didn't have a couple injuries to start the season, I think you could certainly make the argument that they're the best team in the country heading into the new season. Maybe it takes a little longer to get there now with a few injuries, but still, I think, that's kind of your headlining storylines. And then, you're going to go up and down the line, and I think it's really how many SEC teams are NCAA tournament good. Because right now, I'd say there's 11 or 12 that feel like they've got a great chance to make it to the NCAA tournament. Do I think 11 or 12 are going to get there? Probably not. Do I think at least 10 can? Yep. And I think that's just the difference, right? And adding a couple more teams to the mix. So, yeah, that, like you said, I mean, there are no shortage of storylines with this league this year. And, we'll see how it kind of unfolds in week one, because there's always something that jumps out at you, even though it's a long season. We're going to know a little bit more about, quite a few of these teams pretty early.
Yeah.
But, hold on just a second, because you raise an interesting point when you talk about NCAA tournament viability for this conference, when you talk about possibly 11 or 12 being worthy of consideration, because, the tournament selection committee always says we don't look at conference affiliations.
Mm-hmm.
That said, they know if they take 10 Southeastern Conference teams, 10 out of 68 from one conference, I mean, that's certainly something that's going to create some backlash if they were to do it. Would it not?
Oh, it would. I don't think there's any question. And I think it's only going to, we said it earlier, if they keep expanding the conference schedule to where you play a couple more conference games a year too, and you take away 2 games against mid-major opponents, I think that number is going to go up even further. I think then we're like, okay, if the SEC gets 11 teams in, not a shock, because I just think you're going to look at all these metrics, right? You're going to look at this, say the analytics are going to say, well, strength of schedule is better, all these kind of things that we weigh so much now in picking the NCAA tournament committee or picking the criteria to get into the NCAA tournament. And so I think it's only going to send that number higher. And then if, you add in the fact, okay, what if the tournament expands? Well, okay, then you're probably looking at 12 to 13 SEC teams that get in. And maybe it is kind of where you start to get an SEC bowl situation where there's only a couple teams don't get in each year. And maybe that's the case. And so, I mean, this is probably the first season I can remember, and probably it helps because you have 2 extra teams. But I'm telling you, I look at every single team in the league this year, and I think if you had to make an argument for best case scenario, you could say that every team feels like in best case scenario they can make the NCAA tournament. Haven't been able to say that every year. And of course, you're going to have the bottom tier teams that just don't have a chance. They're going to wind up with 3-4 wins, something like that. But on paper, I can give you an argument for every team to make the tournament. And so I just think it showcases the strength of the league. And like you said, I think the tournament committee will look at it the same way potentially. So,
give me your argument for Vanderbilt.
Great question.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because Vanderbilt's a team that I've gone back and forth on quite a bit this offseason. At first, I was very high on them. Then I started to scale back a little bit. But more recent things I've heard, I think I'm a little more optimistic, maybe not as far as I was 4 or 5 months ago. But I think the thing about Vanderbilt is, and we've seen this in the SEC in recent years, is Vanderbilt going to be a great defensive team? Absolutely not. I just cannot see it. I think the way that they match up with other teams, I don't know if they have the size. I don't see it in terms of how they're going to be able to match up night in, night out with a lot of these SEC teams. But on the positive note, I think Vanderbilt could be one of the better shooting teams in the SEC. I think the way they play under Mark Byington is going to be so much more exciting in terms of putting out the kind of team that I feel like you need in this era of the SEC, where you need to be able to make shots and you need to be able to score a lot of points. And I think they're going to be able to do that. Now, they may play some games that are 95 to 90, but give me that over, games that are 58, 56, right? So I think that would be the case I would make for Vanderbilt. They have a very experienced point guard. A.J. Hogarth comes in from Michigan State. I think they got a lot of shot makers around him. And if they can just figure out the front court pieces, which I'm probably the most down on in terms of depth there, one injury here or there, and they may be in trouble. But they could also just spread it out and say, you know what, we're going to do what we've seen some other teams do, and that's just beat you with a lot of guards and perimeter players and just make shots. If they can do that, I can absolutely see a scenario where Vanderbilt winds up being, one of those bubble type teams that makes it to the tournament.
Blake, I'm curious. You mentioned Alabama maybe for sure as the most hopeful in terms of a national champion out of the league. But I'm also curious, is there a quote-unquote South Carolina from last year that jumps out to you, a team that is like kind of really off the radar that might make a great run in league play and then therefore, be a kind of maybe a sleeper to advance deep in the NCAA tournament in your mind?
I think the team I would pick out of this group, and it won't surprise people who have just, listened to me talk about this guy for 2 years now, and 1 year was much better than the other. But I know Missouri didn't win an SEC game last year, but I think the problem is that you can't just solely base it on the record, because if you look at all kind of the advanced stuff and everything like that, that Missouri team that went over last year was still not as bad as probably 4, 5, 6 of the worst or even bottom 2 or 3 teams in the SEC in recent years. And it's because they lost a lot of close games. They lost a lot of games by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. And, usually when you talk about a team that goes over, you're thinking, all right, they're getting blown out all the time. Like, that team's just terrible. It wasn't really the case. And so if you take that, okay, and you use that as for the argument for Missouri here, and then you say, well, they have a much better roster. They have a much deeper roster. They had injuries across the board last year. Deep roster. Mark Mitchell comes over from Duke. We remember this guy being the talk of March a couple years ago. Just an absolute stud in the front court. You've got an experienced point guard who's played a ridiculous amount of minutes in Tony Perkins. You've got guys coming back that can play defense and make shots. 3-point shooting, I'm still a little suspect on. But they got a lot more depth. They got a lot more talent. And they're going to be picked probably anywhere from, 11 to 14, maybe 15, somewhere like that. I think this Missouri team doesn't resemble the Missouri team that came out of nowhere a couple years ago, because that team could shoot it a lot better. But I think in terms of talent, they're not that far off from where they were a couple years ago. So I'd pick Missouri just because I think, again, a lot of that was very fluky in terms of going over last year. If they'd have played that 100 times, I think that outcome only happens once, just because of all the different things that went against them. So give me Missouri as maybe a potential sleeper team that could be in the hunt maybe later in the season than people think.
And you don't
list to the top of the table.
You
perhaps.
don't feel like Dennis Gates can't coach either,
No.
right?
And that's the thing. And I know, again, if you guys remember, probably a couple years ago, right? Like I'm basically talking about Dennis Gates as though he's the next Phil Jackson. I wasn't trying to, go that far, but I said, look, anybody I've talked to out there can tell you he is one of the most well-respected coaches at the mid-major level. What he did at Cleveland State, I talked to him 4 days after he got the job. He did not have a roster. He had no one on his team. And then in a year and a half, they won the Horizon League. And, and it was just, the situation was even worse there than just not having a roster. It was kind of what was left for him. And then he comes to Missouri in year one. They win 25 games, get to the NCAA tournament, all that. He takes then it was a good roster, but it wasn't a roster that you were going to say was probably as good as 7-8 teams in front of him in the SEC. And so I think he did everything he could last year. Some of it's on him because I don't think the roster was good enough to support having injuries and a couple other deficiencies they had. But again, I don't think it's coaching. I think it's just literally one of the most unluckiest teams you will find in recent years in college basketball last year. Lost a lot of close games, and now they have a little more room for error, where last year they had absolutely zero room for error. I think there's some positive momentum here, but, again, it's hard to look at a team that went over and feel that great about it until you actually see them, put a different product on the floor. So,
Blake Lovell of Southeastern 16 joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Blake, you talk about Missouri. They're going to Memphis to open the season. And, for a team that struggled the way they did last year, this may not be the best opener for them. Is that fair to say?
Fair to say, and I think it will be very my Twitter mentions will be filling up quickly if they lose this game by 20, because, as we know, one game makes a season. But in all seriousness, I think it is one where it's a tough opening game because you are putting a lot of new pieces in place on this Missouri team. You're going into Memphis in a year where it's just like it's another year where what's going to happen under Penny Hardaway? Like there's certainly a lot of questions based on the coaching situation and all that this offseason with assistants and everything. But, there's no doubting that Memphis has a lot of talent, high expectations as usual. So it is a tough spot for Missouri to start the season. Luckily, after that, I think they're going to play a lot of games where they are going to be a heavy favorite in. But yeah, it's one of the better games, I think, on opening night because, like I said, storylines, right? Missouri's coming off a season like that. Memphis is coming off an off season where it's just like, can we just start playing games? And you don't really know what's the future of Penny Hardaway going to be there, right? Heading into his, his 8th season now. So yeah, there's plenty to work with for anyone getting ready for that game. So,
Blake, real quick, I want to ask you too. Mark Sears, almost undoubtedly going to at least be predicted to be your SEC Player of the Year. Who could potentially knock him off from that pedestal in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Janai Broome at Auburn coming back was just huge. I mean, Auburn's a team that I have just not moved out of my top 3 all off season. I think they're probably the second best team, maybe third if you want to make an argument for someone else in that range. But I think Broome is the closest candidate to be able to do that. Walter Clayton at Florida, I think, is right there. I feel like those are the top 3 players in the league. Of course, Wade Taylor. I mean, we know Wade Taylor. He can go off for 50 at any time, and so I think he certainly has to be considered one of the best players in the league. And then, let's say Tennessee is able to keep their momentum going and they're able to have a chance to win another SEC title. If they do that, it's going to be Zakai Ziegler. I feel like it's going to have, the opportunity to be right there winning, an SEC Player of the Year type award. So those seem to be, the best options, I feel like, for challenging Mark Sears. But like you said, I mean, it's hard to pick anyone other than him right now. But I do think Broome's probably the closest. And it's just like, do you value a guy that's going to score a ton of points as the point guard and make a ton of threes, or do you value the guy that's going to fill the stat sheet like Broome and pretty much do everything? So,
also, I wanted to ask you, and I guess, be careful how I word this question, but what are, quote, realistic expectations for Kentucky this season?
Yeah. It's realistic.
For anybody not a fan of Big Blue Nation, I guess, what are realistic expectations?
Yeah, anybody not a fan, because Big Blue Nation does not deal with reality very well. So,
I think, and look, my peers are higher on Kentucky than I am at times, and I think they're one of those teams just because it's an entirely new team, and I'm like, I want to see how the chemistry comes together, because we always said that about Cal's teams, right? They always had talent, but you're always used to so many new guys, and some teams would hit, some teams wouldn't hit. And I think the thing that Mark Pope has here is a trend we've seen in the SEC, where if you can shoot the ball, you have a chance to be okay. It's one of the reasons Missouri got as hot as they did a couple years ago. It's why Alabama has certainly been able to make the run they've made, a lot more than that too. But, I mean, being able to overcome some defensive sort of deficiencies. I think this team has a chance to be pretty good defensively, but I think they have the chance for a second straight year to be the best three-point shooting team in the country. And isn't it wild to think about that? You change in a different roster, different coach, but I think in back-to-back years, they're probably going to be the best three-point shooting team in the country. And it's all the people they brought in, that have made just a gazillion threes. And when you consider that, I think Kentucky, if we're trying to pick a sleeper, let's say, I want to say they're picked 8th, 9th or something in the SEC preseason media poll. If we're talking about teams in that range, I think Kentucky is probably one of the best options, because they are going to shoot it so well. They got Lamont Butler, you guys remember, was on that San Diego State team a couple years ago, got to the national championship. When you have a guy leading the way like that at point guard, that really helps. Kirk Reese has been around different places, Arizona, West Virginia, but such kind of a highly sort of heralded guy at the guard position that I think will really help. Jackson Robinson's an NBA player, and then you've got a bunch of size in the front court. So I think Kentucky, this is as wild as it sounds, we've never seen them kind of in this position for the longest time. They feel like they're being sort of underrated coming into the season, and I think that's a good thing for Mark Pope, because that's exactly what you want. You don't want to come in being ranked number 1 in the preseason. You want to come in kind of where they are, and I think that's perfect for them. So I think realistic expectations are, I think they can win the SEC. I don't think anyone's going to pick them ahead of the top 4 or 5, maybe 6 options, but I think they're good enough to challenge for an SEC title. So
Blake Lovell of Southeastern 16 joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, getting us ready for the start of SEC men's basketball season next Monday, right around the corner. It's crazy. Blake, We appreciate your time, man, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Always enjoy it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Blake.
When we continue here on Main Street Sports today, we will get into some NFL. We had another Monday Night Football game last night, and it was probably better than we anticipated.
Yeah, and yes.
So,
in many regards.
In many regards, yeah. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and some other things across the league when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this.
Do you wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Welcome back to Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely, our troubleshooter in studio. I'm Maurice Patton, kind of battling some technological issues, but we are still here. Oh, so keep that on the QT, on the download.
It is how, I mean, it's spooky season.
There we go.
You know, we talked last week that this studio, we're not saying it's haunted, but it's been some interesting things that's going on.
There have been some interesting things
Yeah.
here in this studio, here in this building, but we are soldiering on. NFL action, Monday Night Football, again, Pittsburgh with a 26-18 win over a more competitive than expected New York Giant team last night in Pittsburgh. And quietly, despite playing two quarterbacks, Pittsburgh out to a 6-2 start at virtually the midpoint of the 17-game schedule.
Yeah, took care of business last night. The Giants had a little sign of life. First half, absolute snooze fest with just field goals. And then Pittsburgh kind of gets going, kind of finds its rhythm. And its defense, as it's done all years, is kind of what carried it across the finish line. Danny Dimes throws a late pick to kind of ruin any potential chance at a comeback. And I mean, that was kind of the tail.
Never happens, right?
Yeah, kind of the tail of the tape. The Giants had a great night running the ball from Tyrone Tracy Jr., but then he has to leave with an injury. So, I mean, it was kind of classic Pittsburgh. I mean, we had everything. We even had Mike Tomlin, who instantly has a new meme already. I mean, he's the gift that kind of keeps on giving in terms of content, and the Steelers are the gift that keeps on giving in terms of wins for their fan base because, yeah, I mean, they're 6-2. Their schedule's been, we talked about it last week that they haven't necessarily faced a lot of real tough quarterbacks just yet. And that's maybe why some folks thought the Jets might give them a little better game, but they dominated Rodgers. They took care of business versus the Giants last night. Huge showdown next week when they go to Washington. Or excuse me, in 2 weeks. They got the bye week now.
In 2 weeks. We'll be talking about Washington here in just a second. But if you were watching last night, you probably learned something. Because George Pickens had a catch that a lot of folks thought was a touchdown at the back of the end zone. But apparently there is a difference in 2 feet.
Yeah.
In both feet. Mark, help us out.
Wilson, he's just reading Deontay Banks. Let's make sure the second foot gets down, and I don't believe it does. Watch, the left foot stays up.
That pass was incomplete.
That's incomplete. I mean, that's almost impossible to do, that the left foot never goes to the ground. And it's a hit by Deontay Banks.
That is almost impossible to do. He got his right foot down twice, but he never got his left foot down. And again, it's both feet, not 2 feet. So budding receivers, remember that. Of course, now it's only 1 foot anywhere else, but you got to be a little bit better in the NFL.
Yeah, got to get them both. And tough break for Pickens. Had not one, but 2 touchdowns called back. And then nearly, he makes a great, rush drops one right in the bucket, and the pass carried him out of bounds just shy of getting into the end zone. Still a big pickup, but he was robbed, man. He had a chance for a 3-touchdown night, and instead goes away with none. And then I don't know if we saw this too later in the game, though. There was a great play where he goes. I don't know what this guy's doing. He is by far the most entertaining receiver in the game, maybe player in the game. When he comes running in at the end of the play, and everybody was saying he was giving the people's elbow. To me, it looked like a running senton, kind of like a backsplash. I mean, he's electric to watch, both in terms of what he can do with the ball, but also just kind of his antics. He's just a weird, kind of goofy guy that just gets himself in these bizarre situations. And he found a few last night.
He's kind of like a train wreck.
Yeah, I mean,
you watch, and sometimes you shouldn't watch, but you can't not watch. He finished with 4 catches for 74 yards, no touchdowns. Van Jefferson, the former Ravenwood standout, 4 catches for 62 yards, no touchdowns. Calvin Austin did catch a touchdown pass and also had a punt return for 1 for the Steelers, again, in that 26-18 win on Monday Night Football, improving Mike Tomlin's record to 21-3.
On Monday night?
On MNF.
Whew, yeah, like I said, they've got an interesting situation, right? Because Baltimore, especially with that loss to Cleveland, has kind of left the door ajar. Like we've said, Pittsburgh, the quarterbacks they faced haven't been the greatest. So, who knows? We'll know a lot more about them, especially in 2 weeks after that Commanders game, if Daniels returns to full health. But hey, wins are wins. Watt was doing what Watt does. He had a great strip sack last night that he recovers the fumble. I mean, the defense is carrying them, and now Russ is starting to heat up. He had a couple vintage Wilson dimes last night. So it was cool to see the black and gold getting fired up last night.
Let Russ cook.
I mean, yeah, that ball to Pickens was amazing. Like I said, the only thing was he drifted Pickens just far enough out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it'd have been one for the absolute highlight reel. His throw to Austin was equally as impressive. And, you know, Fields is sitting there thinking like, man, I was playing okay. I mean, you know, we'd only lost 2 games with me as the starter, you know, but so he's deep down, you know, probably like, come on, Russ, you know, give me a window of opportunity here, but he hasn't done it just yet.
He has not.
They've gotten creative with the play calling, getting him into space, allowing him to make some easier throws to get in the rhythm, and then he's taken a few deep shots to either Pickens or Austin last night. So it's been fun to see Russ kind of get back into his old form.
You talk about the Steelers and the Commanders in a couple of weeks. The Commanders staved off a loss on Sunday. We didn't get to talk about it yesterday in the interest of time, but we certainly did not want to not take another look at this Hail Mary here as Jaden Daniels uncorks 52 yards to the end zone.
Comes down to one last play, and it's going to be getting longer by the second. You're all the way back at the 30-yard line. Now you can step into it. Here comes the Hail Mary with the game on the line, and the ball is caught! Caught! It's a miracle! It's Noah Brown! Oh, my goodness! This town is going.
What? You know, we talked about spooky stuff.
I'm telling you, man.
That's nuts. I don't know what just happened. But that was a heck of a play. Mark, are we still on? I assume so.
Yeah, everything looks fine on my side.
Okay.
We lost power briefly.
Our screen just went black. I don't know for a second. Yeah, scared the heck out of us. But yeah, great play there for the Commanders in that 18-15 win over the Bears. That was the first game in almost 50 years where you had seen 2 go-ahead touchdowns in the last 30 seconds.
Man, yeah, crazy game. And this was one of the only real stretches of a game I got to watch toward the end of that. And the Bears, I mean, there ain't no other way to say it. They botched this on 2 different occasions.
They botched it late with the offensive lineman in the backfield and trying. I don't know if they were trying to get cute or what, but you know, fumbling there down inside the 5, and then they were still able to recover, go down and score the go-ahead touchdown with, again, less than 30 seconds to play. And then the Commanders get the Hail Mary there at the end.
Awful situation for Chicago. That was one where you definitely felt like, man, it was everything. You felt like, oh, this is finally maybe going to be the year. This is finally the game where good fortune smiles on us for a change. Mm-hmm. And despite the fact that Waldron, you know, who's in the crosshairs as the coordinator, fumbling the ball. They'd ran that package a couple of times throughout the course of the season, hadn't given it off to the big fella yet, but he coughs it up. Somehow, some way, they find themselves back on top, and then in heartbreaking fashion, giving one away. I mean, it was tough. And if on the flip side, if you're Washington, that's one where you definitely, I mean, in the blink of an eye, you go from a loss to a win. And now you have a full game up on the Eagles in your division. So, I mean, they kind of snuck one out right there. And that will be interesting to see if that plays. We talked last week that the NFC North maybe gunning for potential all 4 teams getting into the playoffs. That's one that maybe Chicago will look back at the end of the year and really, really kick themselves. Insane ending, crazy tip that takes a perfect bounce. And Jaden Daniels, the legend, kind of continues to grow. He had not had a great game by his early season standards because he's coming back from the injury, but nobody cares about that anymore. He's got a play that will live forever in Commanders lore with that Hail Mary, and it'll be interesting to see how they go the rest of the season as well.
It certainly will be. Our number 1 here on Top 5 Tuesday on Main Street Sports today is in the books. When we come back to the Lee Company studios here in Muletown, we will be joined by one of Muletown's finest, the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters. Stay with us after this.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilai Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are here in the apparently haunted Lee Company studios in Columbia. There's some spooky stuff going on here for sure.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't mess with ghosts. I've been watching a ton of scary movies lately, so I'm already a little on edge, and we don't need to add to that.
Well, see, that's why I don't watch scary movies, is because I live on edge. So it's I don't need any help. But hopefully here to kind of calm things down, the Blue Raider voice, the pride of the dimple, Chip Walters, talking a little MTSU as we hope to shake off the bad juju that we ran into down in Jacksonville, Alabama last week. Yes.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say a couple of things before we get rolling. I think number one, a piece of news just out. Charvarius Ward who is a Blue Raider great now with the San Francisco 49ers. Want to send out some love his way. He and his wife lost their 1-year-old daughter, Amani Joy. Don't know any details, but she was 1 year old, and it was a sudden passing. And but Charvarius has remained in touch with the football program and the university, and certainly one of those guys who hasn't forgotten where he came from. And also anybody and everybody that it was touched by the loss of a student yesterday on campus due to an apparent suicide inside the library. I know for a fact that there were several soccer players. There were a lot of people. It was in the library at a very busy time when this student decided to take their own life. And there were some soccer players in there, but the university has, from everything that I've seen social media wise, has really, immediately stepped up to the plate, offering counseling to any and everybody, whether it was students, faculty, staff, and those who just needed someone to talk to and be grieving, and reminding folks that 988 is the suicide prevention hotline, and we're all better off when you're here. So if you have somebody you need to talk to and things aren't great, be sure and dial that number. There's somebody waiting to talk to you. And the university campus, by the way, will get back open tomorrow. But just a sad, sad day. And I talked to Derek Mason about this last night on his radio show, and he addressed it. And I just asked him, when a tragic event like this happens on campus, how do you address your team? And he said that, the first thing that happened was that they immediately sent everybody a text on the team to just let them know that something, or what, I don't know exactly what the text said, but just letting them know, giving them facts that something had happened, so they didn't, start pulling from wherever, and also getting them all the information that any of the football team might need, whether they knew this person or not, or happened to have been in the area, because there were some soccer players who were in the library at the time of it. But just very, very sad. And unfortunately, we see more of that just in general population throughout our communities, and just want everybody to know. And I have to give my partner Joe Dubin a lot of credit. He is very, very active in trying to help other folks who may be going through things. His ear is always there. His phone is always available for a call. So just, if you need to talk to somebody, there's always somebody out there.
Yeah. Chip, we appreciate your comments as far as both of those situations. Obviously, our thoughts are with the Blue Raider community in terms of the tragic occurrence in the library yesterday, and obviously with Javarius and his family with the loss of his daughter. That's I can't imagine a 23-month-old. That's devastating, obviously.
Absolutely.
So let's get on to
the more
less
fun
important. More fun theoretically. Less important for sure. Again, middle football goes down to Jacksonville State, and it's 14-7. I think it was 7-7, right? Field goal to go up 10-7.
Yep, and then 14-10 Jack State at halftime. So,
but to me, Chip, middle scores, they give up the score on the quarterback run to tie it. They go back down, they kick a field goal, and I'm sitting there watching it, and I said, we're not going to win this game kicking field goals.
You and I must have been on the same middle plane at that moment, because I said, gosh, we don't need to kick a field goal here. It would be, and I get you, because anytime, like, you look at people like Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky, Liberty, you feel like you don't need any, you need to score as often as you can. And because you have, even if you slow them down, they're going to score points. They're just very gifted offensively. And and that was, that. But that being said, going into the locker room 14-10 at half, I didn't feel awful about that. But we were having a hard time getting them stopped in the run game, as the stat sheet will show. What I think 438 yards of rushing offense against a defense that is as you and I were kind of chatting back and forth earlier today by text, that you've got a defensive line that's had to be totally rebuilt. There's a couple of standout guys there, but nothing like it was a year ago. Linebacking crew. You don't have Devin Curtis. You don't have Drew Francis. Parker Hughes is just back, but you've got 2 of your 3 starters out, and you've rebuilt your secondary. And right now, that Xavier Williams, a quarterback turned strong safety, is one of the strongest pieces of your defense. The good news is, hey, Xavier Williams is playing great, making all kinds of tackles at strong safety. Bad news, your strong safety is your leading tackler. And so Derek Mason, after the game on his post-game show, said, he goes, I'm very interested to watch the film and see what the amount of yard. He goes, I think I'm going to see 250 yards after contact on run plays. So yesterday morning during his press conference, I reminded him that he said that on the radio, and I said, do you have a number? He goes, yes, 286.
Oof.
So that was after first contact. And he went on to talk about it last night on his radio show and say, against a team that runs it as well and as much as Jacksonville State does, you expect them to have bigger rushing numbers. He goes, but if we go back and we look at what we do, and let's say at their yardage is whatever it is at first contact, plus, I don't know, 10, 15% just from some leakage. But you're making most of your plays on the first contact. He goes, I can live with that, especially when you're only giving up 130 yards through the air, because, well, number one, they didn't have to throw it, and that's what you want to do, is you want to make them force them to throw it. He goes, I could have lived with all of that. And he was spitting bullets the other night after. He was mad, not happy with his football team, and Thursday and Friday was not a happy guy to be around. But he is they've gotten back on the practice field, and I was out there a little bit on Sunday afternoon and watched him, they business-like, and then and he's really good at he doesn't sugarcoat where they are right now, and really did I thought a pretty good job of just frankly talking about it and where they are, and here they are. He's not unhappy with what they're doing offensively right now. He just wants them to be a little more efficient in that they're, yardage wise, they're doing okay. But they need to finish drives, be more complete in their offensive drives. And, one of the things that kind of got your attention late in the game at Jack State was that Holden Willis went down and hit the back of his head on the turf. And, as of yesterday morning, he was still in protocol, but Derek and all Blue Raider fans are hoping that Holden Willis is available this weekend. And maybe the gift there was that they played last Wednesday and he had a few extra days. So I haven't heard yet whether or not he's out of protocol or not. But you need Nick Vattiato, you need Holden Willis, you need Omari Kelly healthy. Those are your playmakers, and Flip Cradle in the run game, and more people stepping up in the run game there to get things going offensively, because you've got a winnable opportunity this week going on the road at UTEP.
Yeah, and Holden Willis is a guy that you can ill afford to lose. I mean, this is a guy who
he's a football player, Mo.
He is a football player, and he is a guy who It's not a stretch to say he can play on Sundays.
I think you're right. Because my daddy would say he's a football playing Jesse, and I'm 100% with you. I had this conversation. He just has the look of a guy. He won't be a tight end on Sundays, but a slot receiver. I mean, you look at a Wes Welker kind of guy. He is maybe even a Cooper Kupp kind of guy.
And he's going to be a matchup issue.
Oh, absolutely. At 6'5", and just has great instincts, very gifted athletically. I mean, a 3-sport guy in high school, played basketball, played baseball, but I love watching him play and watching the ball. And I like watching he and Nick Vattiato get on the same page. They're fun to watch, and I know Nick has a lot of confidence in both of those guys.
Yeah.
Chip, I'm curious, other takeaway or other question coming out of that game. You've now seen Western. You've now seen Jack State. We kind of, well, until last week, we thought we maybe knew about Liberty, but and then Sam Houston, who's not on the schedule, is kind of an unknown there. But does Jack State, I mean, is that a team that, I mean, they're sitting there obviously undefeated. Is that a team in your mind that can win this league?
They absolutely could. Absolutely could. They're very physical. They are more, in my opinion, they're more physical than Western Kentucky. Western more explosive in the pass game. Jack State, no question, more explosive in the run game. Liberty, I'm not sure Liberty's quite as good as they were a year ago. Caden Salter's very good, their quarterback, and both with his arm and his legs. The Kennesaw game against Liberty was just kind of amazing. I mean, and that they were able to pull that off. But we'll see Liberty and Jack State tomorrow night. They're in a midweek game this week. That will be 6:00 tomorrow night in Lynchburg on the CBS Sports Network. So that's kind of the real key matchup this week. Louisiana Tech going to Sam Houston tonight will be interesting. Tech has gotten going a little bit. The matchup with UTEP this week is for Middle. UTEP's quarterback took one of the most vicious licks I've seen all year against Louisiana Tech last week, and he is in protocol. He may or may not be ready for Saturday.
Hey, real quick, Chip, I didn't realize that was UTEP's quarterback, because I'm pretty sure I know the clip you're talking about. And this kid got absolutely rocked
right under the chin strap.
Yes,
and so that was UTEP's quarterback Locklear, who had played at Austin Peay last year, and they are down to they may have a third string guy starting on Saturday, but a true freshman. So, but again, waiting to see whether or not Locklear gets out of the portal. But that was a nasty lick he took on a targeting call last week.
Yeah, good. Yeah, targeting by every metric was correct, of course. There, I'm gonna send this over to Mark, see if we can run this, because that was one that if this were the '80s, you'd say, man, what a vicious hit, man. Good job by the defender. And nowadays, you're borderline. Was it legal? I mean, wasn't legal clearly, but you're borderline wondering if it was a cheap shot at this point, because he got smoked.
He did. He did get smoked. I don't know whether y'all are going to get an opportunity to look at it, but that's obviously that's something that in the new world order is funny. I was on the phone with Coach Donnelly this morning, Mo, and we were and that subject came up about hits and stuff like that, and you can only imagine what he talked about, how today's game compares to the game of 25 years ago. And,
when Kelly Holcomb played with a broken jaw and different things like that. Yeah.
Well, I saw that, that I was thinking about that, because Kelly got that broken jaw down at Georgia Southern, in just a rock'em sock'em robots game down there with the Georgia Southern Eagles. It was something.
Weren't they all?
They were. They were.
Yeah.
All those matchups were for sure, and in particular before Irk Russell retired, when he and Boots were having a standoff on great quotes between each other. It was really good.
Yeah. Mark, I think Mark's cooking something up.
This is
Let
worth
Mark cook.
let Mark
See if we
cook.
can-
'Cause this is worth checking out.
See if we can smell what Mark is cooking. Here we go.
Here we go.
This is from last week's UTEP Louisiana Tech game. There it is.
Oh,
Yeah, man.
yeah. He was fully exposed too. I mean, just having released the ball there. That's
get a second snap of the
Ooh.
year. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, what you said, buddy.
did that guy get thrown out for targeting or what?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he
Okay.
did. So,
Okay, good.
but yeah, that
Good.
was last week's game, and that's one of the toughest hits I've seen.
It's pretty
all
rough.
year. Yep.
Yeah.
But that football's going, but basketball's going, and it's time for the overlap, Mo, as you well know.
Yeah, it is time. The Lady Raiders hit the floor tomorrow night, right? Well, for the second time.
For the second time, they were out there last Friday, and then tomorrow night they take on Lindsey Wilson. What is the unique thing about this matchup, Mo?
All Raiders all the time.
All Blue Raiders all the time.
All
Blue
the
Raiders
time.
versus
That's it.
Blue Raiders.
Yeah.
Maybe if we could get Cleveland High School's team there to watch, that would be that'd be pretty good.
Hey, I will tell you what. I saw Cleveland's girls basketball team in the state tournament last year. There might be one or two Blue Raiders down there that a certain women's basketball coach might want to keep Blue Raiders, if you know what I mean.
I smell what Mo has cooking. Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
So just for what that's worth. Men's basketball coming along. We had Joe Sullivan of Main Street Murray on with us yesterday, and he said he had been down and was impressed with, Chris Loof, among others.
Well, I'll tell you, from all reports, Chris Loof had quite a scrimmage against UT Martin on Sunday. Middle they've scrimmaged East Tennessee and UT Martin in closed scrimmages. They will open up on Monday at 11 a.m. This might be a chance for you to come to the game, Mo. 11 a.m. 11 a.m.
Early ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it is the city schools game. There will be 9,000 screaming kids in there.
Baby.
It's a high pitched, but it's great. And the Blue Raiders will be taking on Oglethorpe in their opener. Can you $1 to a Dr. Pepper here can you give me their full nickname?
I cannot pull that one up. I apologize. Talk to me.
The Stormy Petrels.
Stormy Petrels.
I felt like it was a two-word nickname.
Yeah, when
I was
he
thinking
said the
fighting something.
Yeah.
The Stormy Petrels
would not have
is
got
some
that.
sort of seabird.
Okay. I guess the question, Chip, is your engineer Monday is going to earn their keep, huh?
That would be me, yes, and I will. And there's not a whole lot of need for extra crowd mics or anything like that on the city school game. But we'll be on the air. I'll be flying solo on Monday. Coach Turnham has he's got to work in the schoolhouse over there in McMinnville.
It's tough to get there from there, I would think, on a Monday morning.
That's right. And but on the air at 10:30, tip at 11. And also I think we'll be on it'll be on ESPN Plus as well. So with Jake Rose and Jill Jelnick, actually. How about that?
Okay. Wade and I will have to get our heads together. You just might see us Monday. Stay tuned.
Yeah, and I think you're going. This team, I think you're going to like them. I mean, and I haven't talked to Joe Sullivan, but if he came and watched a practice, and here, this is a blanket statement in that there were 6 players who are not there that were there a year ago, and they're not there by either the portal or whatever, graduation, whatever it may be. In my humble opinion, the 6 that have come in are better, or we're in better position than with the 6 that left.
Tell us about the TCU transfer.
Isam Mustafa.
Yes.
He is 6'9", 250.
How's he looking? 6'9", 250?
He looks 6'9", 2. He's on the all-airport team. He had double-digit rebounds, from my understanding, during one of the scrimmages. And that the thing is, Nick McDevitt said the other day that he was looking at, okay, if Isam is here and Chris Loof was right here when the summer started, it's now like Mustafa and Loof.
Okay.
And Chris has really come on. And I think what you're going to end up getting between that two-headed post player and with Christian Fussell now back in the fold as a third guy in that position, is you're not going to have much drop off from your starter to your backup, and in whichever way that ends up working out. But I think you have 40 minutes of strong play from your post player, and now Loof is in his, he's in his second year, and I mean has just improved so much at every opportunity, and athletic, runs the floor, and he can shoot the ball some too. If he gets a wide open look at the top of the circle, he can hit a three. Mustafa has he started his career, played 3 years at Coastal Carolina for our pal over there, and averaged a double-double for 3 years. And then played last year at TCU. His production went down just a little bit due to minutes played, I think. But he is a guy who I describe as having the ultimate bag of tricks. I mean, he's got every, he's got more moves than a case of X-Lax. I mean, he's got the scoop, he's got the hook, he's got the fadeaway, the roll in. He's got all the moves, but the best part about him, he is a ferocious rebounder, and that's what they really wanted out of him. And what that, you have a healthier, much healthier Cam Weston playing. He played, from my understanding, a good bit on Sunday. Justin Porter from my understanding, had a huge game offensively. And you still had a couple of guys, Alec Oglesby, still they're being easy on him with his shoulder. He didn't play, nor did Jalen Counter, who he'll be threatening to be in the starting lineup, and he is the transfer from IUPUI, who led them in all offensive categories for the last 2 years. And he is a really, he really gives you a lot in when he's in the ball game. So I'm excited to see him in a real game. And he bumped knees with somebody during a inter squad, and he is I think will be good to go on Monday. They were just giving him a little extra rest, but anyway, I think Coach McDevitt's really excited about his group, and everybody that's come to watch him practice has kind of left saying, "Oh, this has a chance to be pretty special."
Yeah, it feels just like from afar already. A little buzz, a little excitement, kind of dipping our toe into the optimism pool a little bit here.
Yep, and you got the kind of the typical schedule. You've got you do have a couple of non-D1s, but you've got Murray, you've got Belmont, you've got Lipscomb, you've got a trip to Myrtle Beach where you're going to open with Ohio U, who has just given Middle fits over the last 10 years in multi-team events. But a solid go to UAB, who put the smack on Western on Sunday. So a very solid non-conference schedule before opening up the regular season on a road trip to FIU, and we'll be in FIU flying in there on New Year's Day for a January 2nd conference opener, and then on to Liberty for game 2.
Kind of crimps your New Year's Eve activity, huh?
Well, unless we may not fly out till the afternoon, so we'll, who knows?
Okay. There you go.
All right.
There you go. All right. Softball.
Finishing up. Yeah, they're finishing up their fall. They've what they call their Black and Blue World Series, and that'll be a best of 3. And they had a pretty successful fall schedule. They hit the ball a ton, scored a lot of runs. Only 2 losses were to Georgia Tech and NC State, I think, but won all the rest of their fall games. And it was Georgia Tech and Louisville, and won everything else. Baseball is doing the same thing, and I think they have finished theirs up. I'm just kind of waiting to get a full report from Coach Jerry Myers on that to see kind of a little postmortem on his fall schedule, and a ton of new faces again for his team. And I think they feel like they've got a much deeper pitching staff coming back. They hit the ball good last year, but I think they feel much better about their pitching staff and those that are in the stable ready for that.
And La Tech Soccer coming to town Friday night, right?
La Tech Soccer coming to town. Big matchup right now. Middle is in 6th place. La Tech is in last place. If Middle can get a win and then and combine that with either a draw or a loss by Sam Houston at Western, Middle leaps up to 4th place in the standings, and that just gets them in a much better spot with the conference tournament coming up in a week. So by the next time we gather, we'll be able to talk a little bit about what the postseason Conference USA tournaments look like for both volleyball and soccer.
Real quick, how does that run down as far as opening rounds at campus sites or
it's all in one spot.
Okay.
They play the whole thing off in about 3 days, so it's they move it on.
Okay.
Yeah, get them in, get them out.
There we go. Yep. Chip will also be able to tell us about the West Texas town of El Paso when we meet again. So
it wasn't the last time I was out there, but the time before I ate dinner at a place called Rosa's Cantina. Believe it or not, right out of the song.
But you did not fall in love with a Mexican girl, did you?
No, it wasn't love.
Oh, we'll leave it at that. Yes. We'll leave it at that. Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice. You can find him at Choose Chip on Twitter, man. We appreciate you as always. Look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Oh,
appreciate
or maybe next Monday.
Maybe next Monday. Yep. Hope you guys can come over.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chip.
See you. Bye.
All right. Hey, when we continue here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it's the grab bag. Do the Dodgers end Major League Baseball for 2024 tonight? Stay tuned. We'll discuss.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
He shoots, and he scores!
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will give you our top 5 Halloween trick-or-treat candies. You won't want to miss that. And if you want to drop some off to us once we tell you, feel free. Again, game 4 of the World Series in about 3.5 hours now. 7:08 first pitch up at Yankee Stadium. The Yankees trying to keep their season alive. The Dodgers trying to end the Major League Baseball season with a 3-0 lead through 3 games. As we mentioned earlier, the Dodgers are going with a bullpen game tonight. And, you know, why not? I'm trying to figure out who this starter is for the Dodgers because I'm not familiar with the name. Honeywell, excuse me. Louise Hill going for the Yankees as they again try to stay alive. But you know, if they don't score any more than they did, I don't guess it matters who pitches.
Yeah. Good news for the Yankees. They got to go back home. Bad news for the Yankees. They were back at home because the weather decidedly producing, fewer runs. It felt like the ballpark factor for the nerds out there was not high. And so on a night where runs were at a premium, only one team got a couple or more than a couple, and that was the Dodgers, who have really just, since that grand slam in game 1, have kind of taken care of business. And the Yankees, at no point other than the top of the 10th inning in game 1 have they really kind of felt like this was much of a series. In that respect, it has been disappointing. We shall see if they can stave off elimination tonight. I feel like the conditions are ripe, if nothing else. I mean, you got an opener going. You're at home. Hopefully give everybody a little something to cheer about and, at least keep this thing afloat. I mean, if you're the Yankees, right, you don't want to get swept in the World Series, especially versus a rival like that.
Again, this is the 12th time these two have met in the World Series. I mean, this is as big a rivalry as there is in Major League Baseball. And yeah, to get swept, I don't think was what they signed up for at all. I had a friend.
Apparently swept by the Dodgers in '63. So, you know, some folks might be feeling some weird cosmic energy right now because it's on the precipice here tonight.
Friend of mine sent me a meme. It's of a text. Somebody says, "What time you coming?" And they respond with a picture of Aaron Judge. It's like, what does that mean? Says it means I'm not showing up.
He has been relegated to milk carton status because he has not delivered. And, you know, 0 for last night, struck out once too, did draw a walk, but man, and for a series where there's been, you know, all this superstar potential, it's been, of all the big names, Freeman is the one probably maybe at the bottom of the list of the superstars, quote unquote. And he's the one that's been the most reliable, certainly the most captivating. And Judge has just gone missing in this World Series.
Meanwhile, the Yankees had a chance to get on the board earlier than they did last night. In the 4th inning, Stanton doubles. They're down 3-0. Anthony Volpe singles to left. Stanton is rounding third when Volpe is coming up with, when Teoscar Hernandez is coming up with the ball. Luis Rojas is the Yankees' third base coach, and it's a name that you need to know because he made one of the worst sins in real time that I have ever seen. The throw clearly beats Stanton to the plate. Will Smith comes up with it on one hop, tags him in his chest before he even gets to the plate, and that's to end the inning. I mean, you would have been sitting first and third, maybe second and third, with 2 outs and with a chance to maybe do some damage right there in what is early and close. And instead, you send that guy to end the inning. And I mean, Stanton's not a very quick guy anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he's not, you know, somebody you're drafting toward the top of your stolen base league.
No, he's not. I mean, he's not even. You know, he's not even Jazz Chisholm. I mean, he's just not very quick, and just a. I almost channeled Boots Donnelly for a second, but no, it was just an awful decision to send him right there, and especially given the situation. But the Yankees do go on to drop that ball game, and now again fighting elimination tonight. Brent Honeycutt 1-1 with a 2.63 ERA during the regular season. You know, he might be able to give the Dodgers just enough to go ahead and close this thing out. But again, Luis Hill going for the Yankees, and if they can get some offense, maybe they got a shot. So
yeah, it kind of feels like you know, this series as we know it is over. And the question, you know, will become how many games do the Yankees potentially get? You know, the gentleman's sweep is definitely in play. Wouldn't be shocked if the Yankees win. Like I said, the conditions are ripe for them tonight. But I don't know. It just seems lifeless. And I mean, obviously giving up the grand slam, but then, yeah, the send last night. I mean, the ball is in the glove out in left field before he's even reached third. I mean, it just feels like the Yankees have not had any consistent momentum. And it feels, I would not be shocked if the Dodgers close it out tonight. I think the conditions are right for the Yankees to get the win. But man, as lopsided as this series has been, it'd be hard for me to go against the Dodgers tonight. They are an underdog for what that's worth, but sure doesn't feel like it.
Across the full history of best-of-7 postseason series in Major League Baseball, 40 teams have been down 3-0. Of those 40, exactly 1 successfully came back from that deficit to win the series. That was the 2004 Red Sox to win the 2004 ALCS against the Yankees.
Yeah, Yankees, they found a way to make things excruciating for their fan base. I mean, you know, it was interesting too. By the time that they kind of really started doing the full pan of all the celebrities in the crowd, everybody was just down in the dumps. I mean, and it was a 2-run ball game. I mean, but 2 runs felt like 15 runs the way that the game and the way the series had gone.
Right. We mentioned earlier in the show, Preds go to Tampa Bay, battle, force a 2-2 tie late, force overtime before finally falling 3-2. But they did get a point. And so they are now 3-5-1 on this young season after starting 0-5. So they have gone 4 straight without losing. Well, okay, so they lost in overtime.
Right.
4 straight games that they've gotten points, I guess is the way you say it in the NHL.
Yep, point streak intact. And, you know, emotional return for Stamkos like we discussed on the show yesterday. And, I mean, for a team of where Nashville is and a team obviously in Tampa Bay who is playing well to start the season, and it's been a great team for several consecutive seasons, you know, it was going to be a tough game on the road no matter what the form, if you will, for these two teams coming in was. So the fact you can go out on the road and scratch a point is not the end of the world. Certainly want to convert that into a win, but you'll take a point and, you know, try and keep the mojo rolling because they've got the Oilers coming to town on Halloween night, Thursday.
Yeah. We mentioned, I don't remember if it was yesterday or if it was late last week, North Carolina State quarterback Grayson McCall, former Coastal Carolina standout, retiring after sustaining another concussion. Well, Michigan quarterback Jack Tuttle has done the same recently. One of 3 Wolverine quarterbacks to start this season. He sustained his 5th concussion earlier this year. Has also had some elbow situations. And so he is stepping away.
Yeah, you know, we like McCall when we talked about that. I mean, just concussions are scary in general. Injuries are scary in general. But the fact that another one, I mean, we've seen so many tragic situations. Then there's so much out there in terms of long-term health with those concussive hits and even the subconcussive hits that, you know, tough to see from a Michigan fan standpoint, tough to see from a just depth him step away, but obviously totally justified and totally understandable considering his medical history.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and take our final break of the day here on Top 5 Tuesday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studio, Wade and I will give you our top 5 trick-or-treat candies, so stay tuned after the break and take notes.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Send it to you.
What is it to do? I see that updated. Oh, here we go.
It's close to midnight, and something evil's lurking in the dark. No. Welcome back to Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. It is Top 5 Tuesday. It is the final segment of the day, and presented by MidSouth 5 Fitness. 2 great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. Whatever shape it is you're in, Thalas Steel will get you in a better one. You can find him at Steel Athletes, STEEL athletes.com. You'll work some of this Halloween candy off of you.
Yeah.
Top 5 trick-or-treat treats. Wade, the floor is yours.
You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and open with a bang. And you can come at me all you want, but give me candy corn, number 1. I don't care who says what. When I think of Halloween, when I think of trick-or-treating, I think candy corn, and the internet can come at me for all they want, but good. That's just more for me. Even give me pumpkin candy corn if you want to get real specific. Just give me some straight, pure boiled high fructose corn syrup. I mean, that's all I need.
Hardened high fructose.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, you could have made that pick anytime
That's
you
okay.
wanted to, and it would not have been a problem.
I want it. Yes, that's low on your list, if not on your list.
No, it's not on my list, period.
That's like I said, it's a bold pick. I'm swinging for the fences early.
There you go. My number 1 is the classic Reese's peanut butter cups. I mean, they're easily packaged. They're easily consumed. If you're not careful, you can consume a lot of them in a short period of time. But yeah, that's my number 1.
Yeah, they can get away from you.
They really can. Yes.
And that's one that that's a great call. I'll eat them every now and again year round, but really around this time. Up next for me, if you ever go by the Pulaski Citizen office during Halloween, it's worth, because really in September even, but our editor, Carrie Malone, she keeps that place stocked with Halloween candy, which is a good thing and a bad thing. So, but you can go, and I always love and I always reach for these. Give me some Kit Kats. Kit Kat right off the jump. She keeps them in stock. And if that was just for me, I appreciate that, Carrie Jane. But give me Kit Kat number 2. That's a Halloween classic for me.
You know, my number 2 is probably more associated with, you know, for me and my family, it's probably more associated with Christmas, but certainly works for Halloween as well. You know, the Hershey Minis, you get the pack of the Hershey miniatures, the assorted miniatures with the milk chocolates and the semi-sweet chocolates and the crackles and the Mr. Good bars.
I was just going to say, now crackle, I would buy a case of those in its own right, but it's extra nice when you got them in a little variety pack like that, because you're like, ooh, this is a real treat at that point.
Everybody gets mad at me though, because I cherry pick. I love the semi-sweets, the special darks as they call them.
I mean,
but
can't be mad. And then, you know, if you want to look at it, maybe that just leaves others for somebody that enjoys those other ones.
That's kind of what I like to think. Get them out of the way so that you can find what you're looking for, as long as it's not special dark. Your number 3?
Up next for me, I will go for both of these varieties, but give me peanut M&Ms. And you know, I'm scared to look at the nutritional content, because I could just mow down some M&Ms, and you know, that's the beauty of it, right? It's a bite size, or it's a fun size, but be careful, because if you're not careful, you can have about 5 empty bags sitting there right in front of you. But peanut M&Ms in particular, right up there at the top for me.
My number 3, speaking of cherry picking, I love Jolly Ranchers, but I specifically love apple and watermelon Jolly Ranchers. And again, I will cherry pick, and I will leave, you know, the grape or whatever else there is for the apples and watermelon. So if you look up and they're all gone, I can tell you who took them.
So if somebody looks at that bucket and they're like, there were more here, and then they glance over and look at you, and you're just like, I don't have a clue what happened. Yeah, I respect that.
I got nothing.
Same for me on my next pick, but I love the pink Starburst. Red is okay too. And I've warmed up to yellow over the last couple of years. It's still almost borderline revolting, but I've kind of started to grow on it. But yeah, I will cherry pick the every pink Starburst out of that bag pretty quickly, almost to the point somebody's like, hey, where'd they go? I mean, they're advertised that they're supposed to have pink in here. There's none in here. Well, I look over at me and there's like 60 wrappers right there.
You got to get rid of the evidence, man. My number 4, my dentist probably would not appreciate this, but Milk Duds.
Yeah, that's a filling gone right there.
It certainly can be.
That will rip one out, but that is a great candy.
Yeah.
Especially around this time of the year, or like even at a movie theater.
And they've just got but the Halloween, they've got the little mini boxes with like maybe 4 to a box, and I'll grab like 4 boxes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. That's how they get you with these things, because you're like, oh, okay, it's just 4 in a box, or it's just 6 M&Ms, and then you flip the content over, and you're like, oh, I just consumed 96 grams of sugar. But yeah. Last for me is got to be Snickers, because Snickers, and not even during Halloween, but I will go toward this. My parents, who don't really eat candy anymore, and I didn't really used to eat a lot of candy outside of Halloween, but now they stock these little mini Snickers year round, and I can't walk by without having at least 2 or 3. So if I see one of those, again, shout out to Carrie Jane. They're usually in the box as well at the Pulaski Citizen office. But give me the bite-sized Snickers just to make me feel like I'm not quite as much of a demon there as consuming a whole bar. If you give out the whole bar, by the way, you're the best neighbor on the entire block. That is a power move.
My final pick is one that just came up on here over the last few years. Are you familiar with the Take 5 bar?
No. Well,
pretzels.
Is it like a pretzel? Yeah.
Pretzels, peanut butter, peanuts, caramel, covered in chocolate.
Yeah.
You cannot go wrong with the Take 5.
That is a pretty good pull. And I'd forgotten about that. And as soon as you kind of described it a little bit, I was like, I've thought about the pretzel.
I mean, it's the crunchy, it's the salty, it's the sweet, and it's chocolate. I mean, what are you missing there?
I mean,
that may be the perfect candy bar.
That's a great bite when you get all of those mixed in to one.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's kind of like a whatchamacallit in a sense, but these somehow Reese's has made them even better. That is a great pull right there at the very. That's elite value on your part.
No doubt. That is our top 5 trick-or-treat candies. We'd love to know yours. And again, if you want to bring us something, we'll let you know where we're at. As Coach Prime would say, we ain't hard to find.
We're at the Haunted Studio. By the way, I'm looking at a funny list here. You know, if you give out bad candy, that's not great. But somebody on this list said that one of the worst ones they get is their dentist. If they go to their house, they give out toothpaste. And I'm like, man, okay, I see where you're going. I'd rather get a business card from you than I would rather get toothpaste.
Or give me, Milk Duds and a gift card and a business card.
Yeah. Say, all right, here's your candy. Now holler at me in 2 weeks when you're missing 3 fillings.
There you go.
But yeah, don't give out the toothpaste. Candy apples are cool, but man, if you got to put in a lot of work to do that.
Yeah,
I'm not that dedicated.
Exactly. That's not an easy thing there. Yeah. That's going to do it for Top 5 Tuesday, presented by MidSouth 5 Fitness. 2 great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. Thalas Steel, you can find him at Steel Athletes, STEEL athletes.com. He will get you hooked up. That's going to do it for today's edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios tomorrow, we will be joined by former Brentwood Academy girls basketball coach Rhonda Blades Brown and our NASCAR expert Heather Williams. See you tomorrow.